All right, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for our June product peek here at BrainCube. My name is Danielle. Today I have the pleasure of introducing you to my colleague here, Alan Leggett, who is a senior internal consultant with us here at BrainCube. We'll be taking about 15 minutes to quickly go through our product platform today with a bit of a focus on paper specifically. Alan has a ton of experience in this industry and works very closely with all of our customers. And with that, I will hand it over to you, Alan. And just one more thing, actually, real quick. If anyone does have any questions at the end of the demo today, we'll be doing a quick Q&A. So please drop your questions in the chat in the WebEx, and we'll be sure to get to them at the end.
All right. Thank you, Danielle, and thank you to all of you for coming and taking the time today to look at this product peek. So, as Danielle mentioned, I am one of the consultants here at BrainCube, and so what that means is once we do integrate the platform into your systems, I help uh, you know help you with usage, help develop use cases, and provide coaching along the way. So I'll give you a quick intro to the company of BrainCube, and then we'll dive into a specific use case that I really like. Um, and that's really going to be surrounding how we can enable users to create smart variables and use their time a little bit efficiently and cut out the IT process. So some background on BrainCube. It was founded about 15 years ago in the late 2000s by three engineers in France, and the reasoning for that was really that they felt they were collecting a lot of data, but they weren't able to properly leverage it, and they felt like they were missing out on the true value that the data was providing. And so out of that eventually came the company BrainCube, which was designed around sitting on top of that data and giving valuable insights and cutting out a lot of the you know nitty gritty data cleaning activities that you might need to otherwise get a lot of that value. Since then, we've been able to deliver, 8 times ROI to our customers. As you see by the logos on this screen, we have been branching out into industries, across the world. We started in paper, so we do see logos on here of some classic paper companies, but we've diversified a lot. So, what may work in paper has been able to work in a lot of other industries as well. So as an engineering founded company, BrainCube really is focused in the Six Sigma processes and understanding that we need to first get a handle on our data, visualizing it, stabilizing it, and then starting to optimize it and move that needle. And so the features that we have are really built to provide an avenue to go through that whole process and not just be one, piece of the process. And so it can be a start to end analytics tool throughout that Six Sigma process. And so you can use, every part of DMAIC can be implemented with BrainCube. And so we have a variety of tools for each of those processes. So the example today I'm going to be looking at is a paper-focused example, but it's not necessarily restricted to paper. So I do a lot of work in the building materials industries, and they have similar issues. And so what I want to look at today is these acute events that seem to happen instantaneously, and we want to isolate what conditions make those events more likely. And so the specific instance I'm looking at right now is a paper break. And so a lot of issues that we have determining the root causes are that they happen very quickly. We often don't have data down to that granularity. And when we do, it's really hard to parse out what has caused that break. And so, ways around that can be looking at conditions over the periods that you're more likely to get paper breaks, but that can involve creation of smart variables through your IT departments, which, adds more organizations to the process and can be time consuming and generally not as user friendly as we'd like. And so I'm going to head over to the BrainCube platform and walk through a use case that I use a lot, which is, entirely within the BrainCube platform. This is something that a process engineer can do within a few minutes, and then allows them to get a little bit better oversight of the conditions that might cause an acute issue like a paper break. So to start out, we are going to chart our sheet breaks. And so as we see here, we do have two tags on this chart. We have in the green a sheet break tag. And so this is just a binary, as a 1 or 0 Boolean for do we have a break or not. And so to do analysis off this would be very difficult because if we're looking at break conditions, once there's a break, we're already in upset conditions. And so it's not really going to tell us what part of our process led to that break. And so what I've done in BrainCube to look at this is just create a simple smart variable. And this is all done entirely within the BrainCube environment. And so I can even pull up how that smart variable is created. So within here, I have our variable characteristics, and then our calculated variable formulation just shows us how that variable is created. And so what this is just a moving average with 3,600 seconds. And so that's 1 hour after each point, it'll look for the next break. And what that does, once we bring it out and put it on a chart, is it will show us how likely we are to get a break within the next hour. And so as that line, this blue line climbs up, it means we're approaching a paper break. And so that's much more likely to show us the conditions that are causing those breaks rather than the conditions during the break or looking at other time periods on a larger scale. So next, what I'll do is just create an analysis off of this. So this is going to be from our charts to our analysis tool. This is sort of the M to A pipeline in DMAIC. So to create an analysis, it's fairly easy to do that right off the chart. It'll pull in the tag that we're looking at specifically. And we'll just do a mono objective for now, and I won't go too much into this analysis wizard. But generally, this just allows us to define the conditions. And so what I will be doing is defining the objective. And what we have here is we just want to keep that number lower. And so I'm going to go below that third quartile number. So our max at 0.164. We'll do it. And then we'll see that reflected in this chart where we have our good points, which is when we're less likely to have a break, and then our bad points when we're climbing towards a break. Additionally, and I'm not going to do this because this is just a demo data set, but we do have the ability to filter by product code. And so, particularly in the paper industry, you might have very different characteristics around breakage depending on your grade. And so we want to look at specific grades. You may have a narrower gauge causing much more issues, and so we want to target that first. So this just allows us to, in one quick go, select which grade we'd like to look at. And from there, we can select our tags. And so because this analysis is going to be run on a BrainCube digital twin, we're going to be looking at tags across all of our data sources that we've added. And so we're not restricted to historian. We have MES sources. We've got any waste, quality, what have you. We've got all those sources integrated into one database. And then we've also lagged those to match up. And so we can adequately look at how our sources interact with each other. So from there, we would run our analysis. I'm not going to do it now. It'd probably take a minute or two to run this analysis, but I already have that pulled up, so we can save ourselves a little bit of time. So from there, this analysis, this is really just a visualization of the model that we've just run. And so we see over here, we have those green points. We also have a date time lift plot. And really what this is showing the impact of our date on our Y variable. And so in this case, we do see we run a lot better on different days. In this particular analysis, that may not be that relevant, but it can be interesting to know that you have significant impact. You run a certain way depending on your times of the season, times of the month, stuff like that. Shifts as well can be useful. And where this starts to get pretty powerful is when we head over to the Hyperlift tab. I apologize. I am having a few networking issues today, so appreciate your patience while we load. But what this does is take each individual variable that we've selected to run in that analysis and compare it to our calculated tag. And by doing it in a piecewise fashion rather than a linear fashion, we see specific running modes. And so you'll notice on these hyperlift charts, that's what we call them, we have these green zones. And so that's BrainCube telling you that when you run this tag in a green zone, we are more likely to be in our desired area for that analysis tag. And so I'm trying to find something useful here. So here's a dry weight tag. So when we have our dry weight tag in this correct or in this zone, we are less likely to be rapidly approaching a break. And this is where we definitely do need to work with your process knowledge and understand which one of these are just correlations, which one of these are causations. Unfortunately, we can't figure that out without process knowledge. So this is where the engineer can quickly come in, see what's relevant, what's not, and where we should run those zones. And then to follow up, finish out our DMAIC process, we can quickly add these tags into BrainCube rules and follow them up in SBC reports, our own reporting module, and our live dashboards. And so those can be delivered to process engineers, operators. It can be throughout the whole spectrum of personnel within your plant, and give you quick, easy decision-making tools to run how you want to run and not use tribal knowledge as much as empowering your engineers through data. So I'll head back over here and talk a little bit about what we've done based on that. So in the paper industry, we do have some strong use cases. Our roots are in paper, so that's where we have the most history. But I do want to highlight a specific use case where we were able to reduce overall chemical consumption by 7.5%, and this helped that company save $750,000 in the first 9 months. So easily paid for BrainCube and allowed them to explore other use cases without worrying about that ROI. And then by decreasing specific chemical consumption, we were able to drop. So with a 40% decrease in that specific chemical consumption, we led to that overall 7.5% decrease. So fairly significant, and all driven with the tools that you saw here. And so with that, I think I'll pass it back over to Danielle and open it up for any questions.
Thanks so much, Alan. Feel free to use the chat for questions, everybody, but I did see one come through. How connected or integrated does my IT infrastructure need to be to support BrainCube Analytics?
Yes, good question. I think the answer to that is really that we try to meet you where you are. We have customers that are very well integrated and standardized across plants all over the world. And we have customers that are working on a site-by-site basis, just struggling to look at multiple data sources at once. And I think that's kind of where the coaching comes in, and that's where a lot of my role is seeing where you are, trying to work off that specifically, and not really. There are, for different use cases, we need more or less data maturity, but the goal here with my role specifically is to really tailor our, what we do and how we design those use cases to your maturity.
Thank you for answering that. I see one other question here. How long does it typically take to implement BrainCube to get to the point of, I think what they're asking is, where you just were and running that analysis and uncovering some of those insights?
Yeah, good question. So that does depend on infrastructure a little bit. So we can host BrainCube in a variety of places. We have a cloud that we can host it in. We also do work with the big three public clouds, AWS, GCP, and Microsoft Azure. And so a lot of the hosting aside, that can impact timeline. But once we have that hosting figured out, we generally can see significant value within, say, 6 to 9 months. But I do want to add the caveat that a lot of that depends on IT infrastructure, and so That's where we'll have to be a little bit more customized to your own situation.
And the last one, do we need data scientists?
So the beauty of BrainCube is that we try to make it so you don't. Obviously, data scientists are always helpful. We always appreciate their knowledge. But a big goal that we have here is to give the process engineers the power that a data scientist would have. And so I don't think you'll be held back from taking advantage of BrainCube if you don't have access to data scientists.
I think those are all the questions that were sent. I'll just give everyone another few seconds here. I don't think I see any others. Oh, here's one. Is BrainCube being employed in applications to create digital twins to optimize productivity in mechanical recycling operations?
That is a good question. I'm not sure I know off the top of my head. I believe we are, but um,
Could we
Danielle,
be?
do you know? Could we be? I believe so. I think that we'd have to have a little bit more in-depth discussion, but as far as I know, I think we'd be completely capable of that.
I have another one. Any use cases in logistics optimization?
I don't believe we have any yet, at least not in North America. I definitely, Don,
And
I'd be interested to explore a specific use case if you do have something in mind.
yeah, I'm
We
wondering
generally
if it's,
focus within the plant,
yeah, if
um,
we generally focus
but
on like process more than like the supply chain or logistics side, but it could be something to discuss. Um, that was from Don, so we'll get back to you on that. All right, awesome. I think those are all the questions I see here. Just want to say thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We'll have another one of these next month on July 11th, where we'll cover a different use case, probably a different vertical, different side of the BrainQ platform. So we'd look forward to seeing you then. And if you have any questions, please reach out to Alan directly or to us directly. And if anyone on this call is in the paper industry, we actually just launched an AI readiness assessment that is available as well on our website, which can also give you some insights into how to get started with these types of analytics at your mill or organization as a whole. And I think that's it. That's our product peak for today. So thank you everyone so much.
thank you all.
Bye, everybody.